Hello everyone, my name is Lowko, and actually, I'm looking at myself right now. Is that too much green with like the green screen behind me and like this shirt? Maybe what this needs is a pop of color. Can you hold up? Sit on the microphone. I'm actually curious. Does the green screen even work if I wear a green shirt? I guess I won't know until I start editing this video. Anyways, today I wanted to talk about viewership in Starcraft 2. And I know I've already made several videos talking about dead game and all of that, but it's pretty much something else entirely. Because recently, in 2018 so far, we've seen a pretty interesting phenomenon. You see, pretty much all of the big tournaments, at the very least the official WCS events, and then also a couple of the events over in Korea and some apparently over in China as well, they've all seen an increase in viewership in 2018 compared to 2017. For example, WCS Valencia, which wrapped up just really like a week or so ago, in 2017, Twitch had a peak viewership of 36,000 people. However, in 2018, it peaked out at 61,000 viewers. And I wanted to go ahead and talk about that because it's pretty interesting. Now, pretty much every video game and every product out there goes through a very classic product life cycle. This is basically business management 101. But anyways, basically, every product starts off during the introduction phase, where in the video game world, developers will try to hype up a product as much as possible, and then when the game releases, obviously, it's gonna grow up to a point where it reaches maturity. Now, I think for a lot of AAA developers, maturity is probably not reached until like a month or two afterwards, but for some games, maybe the most amount of players they will ever witness is literally on the day of release. Regardless, once a game, or a product for that matter, reaches maturity, there's gonna be an inevitable decline. Now, in the video game world, a lot of developers obviously release DLC and expansions to once again try and create these spikes upwards and once again go through the same cycle of introduction and then growth and then maturity once again. With Starcraft 2, obviously, we had Heart of the Swarm and then also Legacy of the Void, but it's been quite some time since Legacy came out. We should be well on our way through a maturity phase into a decline phase right now in 2018. And for some reason, I noticed this in my own YouTube analytics as well, maybe not necessarily the player base of Starcraft 2 has grown, but the viewer base has. So I think there's a couple of reasons for this, and feel free to speculate with me down below in the comment section. Obviously, I can't pinpoint why this is either. But first off, obviously the game went free to play. That's a big one. Obviously, that's another one of those spikes in player bases as well. And I still actually get people coming over to the live stream mentioning that they just started playing StarCraft and whether or not I have any recommendations for them. That's awesome. If you're new and you just started playing StarCraft, that's awesome. Seriously. I think that's definitely a big influx, but I don't really know exactly how many people play StarCraft 2 monthly as it is right now. Now, the fact of the matter is that we are now seeing more people watch StarCraft 2 esports than we have, I believe, since like 2013 or something along those lines. It's pretty ridiculous. I feel like a lot of the people that love to watch StarCraft these days don't necessarily play the game anymore. It's sort of as if you're watching football on television. You may enjoy watching football, but you probably, aren't actively engaging with football yourself, right? And that's honestly in esports a very interesting thing. I know many people that like to watch League of Legends or Dota or Overwatch or Hearthstone or whatever, but they like to watch the esports because they play the game. With StarCraft 2, even if I were to quit StarCraft right now, you bet your ass I'm gonna be watching the grand finals at BlizzCon every single year, right? Just because I love the game and I love watching people compete to a level of play that I can personally never reach. I guess there's like a thing with StarCraft that just sort of leaves you in awe. And speaking of that, I think that StarCraft 2's skill level right now is higher than it's ever been before. One of the games that comes to mind, for example, is Classic versus Raynor, very recently in the round of 32 of the GSL Code S. It's game 2 of that series, in case you want to look it up. It's probably the best game of Zerg versus Protoss that I've ever seen. And this was just a couple of weeks ago. The skill level difference between like low Grandmaster to high Grandmaster to Pro Gamer to top of the line Pro Gamer, it's significant. Now also, by the way, for WCS Valencia specifically, as to why the viewership during the grand finals was so high. It's probably also partly due to the fact that the Taiwanese Protoss has made it to the grand finals. Apparently the Taiwanese scene is very passionate, but also, you know, I mean, I'm personally a massive fan as a Zerg player by heart myself, just because he plays his own game. He doesn't really mess around. He plays his own playstyle. Another reason as to why the StarCraft 2 viewership might very well be growing is likely due to the fact that esports and gaming on the whole is growing. I mean, let's talk about gaming for just a little bit, right? The amount of people and the amount of celebrities and whatnot that I hear talking about Fortnite is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, you may or may not like Fortnite, and that's you know, that's irrelevant here. There's no denying that video games, compared to even like 3 years ago, is becoming significantly more mainstream. And obviously, I can imagine from some players that like to maybe play Fortnite, they may start looking into other video games as well, and therefore broaden their horizons to watch esports and everything that has to do with that, right? I really feel like that the fact that gaming has become a lot more mainstream is definitely one of the factors as well as to why older games can still keep up in 2018, even like close to a decade after coming out. Also, obviously, esports, I mean, it's growing. I mean, Dota 2 had like a $25 million prize pool. I believe that was in 2017. I'm assuming they probably are looking to expand their horizons once again in 2018. Another reason as to why the StarCraft 2 viewership is at the very least stable and maybe even going up is likely because of the fact that the skill level difference between players inside of Korea and outside of Korea it's getting closer together. I would still argue that the top level players are all going to be Koreans. In particular, someone like Maru comes to mind. But there's no denying that Serral, the Finnish Zerg player, is definitely amongst like top 5 players on the planet. Probably top 2, top 3. The man is an absolute monster. And I'm actually really excited that WCS, or rather GSL versus the world, where there's actually a chance he's going to be facing off against Maru. But anyways, I really feel like the fact that that skill level is closing really does make it more interesting to watch a lot of these foreign tournaments. I mean, a couple of years ago, we would basically look at like an attendee list and be like, oh, all right, Innovation is participating. Well, there's also this massive list of non-Koreans, but we all know that the grand finals and maybe even the top 8 is going to likely be just Koreans. And these days, obviously, with Blizzard basically locking a lot of Korean players from participating in the WCS circuit events, I do think that is one of the reasons as to why, at the very least outside of Korea, StarCraft 2 viewership looks very solid. Anyways, a long story short, and I know I've been rambling onwards about a lot of unrelated things. It seems like even though StarCraft 2's viewership was expected to decline in 2018, or at the very least, I think a lot of community members, including myself as well, expected this game to probably decline after Legacy of the Void came out. It looks as if, at the very least, it's very stable and maybe even growing a little in 2018 compared to 2017 and 2016, which, as a StarCraft 2 nerd at heart, I absolutely love it. A couple of years ago, I was worried that I was gonna have to switch to like another game as like my main game. I don't actually have to. There's a lot of people still enjoying StarCraft, and I really appreciate it that so many of you are still hanging out on this YouTube channel as well, watching all of the StarCraft 2 videos. It's really cool. Now, one last thing that I am personally really excited about. There's a new tournament starting up in about a week from now called the StarCraft 2 Amateur Series. This is an event that is being put out by StarLadder, and basically, as you may have already guessed by the title of the tournament, it's an amateur series from players from Bronze League all the way up to Grandmaster League. So you can go ahead and participate in this as well. Now, last year, they started it off in the Russian region of SC2, but this year, backed by Blizzard directly, they are actually expanding towards North America and then also Europe. So if you are in the Russian region, if you are in Europe, or you are in North America, you can sign up for this tournament at sc2.starladder.com. I'll go ahead and post a link to it down below in the description of this video as well. Basically, you can participate against other players of a similar skill level. They ask you to hook up your Battle.net account directly to the StarLadder's website as well, so they can determine what your actual skill level is. So it's not like you can just sign up and say, oh, I'm silver, while actually being in bronze or actually being in Grandmaster. I guess that second one makes a lot more sense. But you can participate for a lot of really cool prizes, and I highly recommend you go ahead and do so. Even if it's just for fun, it is something that is great for becoming an overall stronger player in StarCraft 2. Now there's one last thing as well. I'm doing this together with Winter as well as Alex007, who by the way is one of the main reasons why this tournament is happening in the first place. But Winter is going to be covering a lot of really exciting games on his channels from the North American region. Alex is going to be covering a lot of stuff from the Russian region, and as you may have already guessed it, I am going to be casting the most exciting games from the European region over at this YouTube channel. At the very least, that's the plan. Maybe if there's going to be some really cool games from the Russian region or the North American ones, I may very well end up covering it over on this YouTube channel as well. But besides having a chance at participating and obviously earning cool prizes as well, your game might very well be featured on one of those 3 channels. Obviously, those are, I think, the biggest 3 StarCraft 2 channels out there right now. So I think that's a really cool opportunity. Anyways, so you can sign up at se2.starladder.com. I highly recommend you go ahead and check it out at the very least. But for now, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile alright, and I will see you once again in the next video.